painters have like this animosity, like almost this resentment towards marketing. And I think it's because they're insecure about their trade. I'm just being honest with you, Mike. Like, I think they're insecure about their trade. And so then, like, this idea, like, I have to pay to get people to work with me, like, that's really hard. It feels like for painters. And so you have to have a healthy, realistic idea of what marketing is. And I think the painters that you see that are building multi-million dollar painting businesses, that's what they're doing is they realize like, yeah, man, I got to spend like 5 to 10% of my gross budget on marketing.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What's up, everyone? Michael Hickman here, founder of PainterGrowth.com, and you're listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. And this is another episode with Aleph Holdings, but first one with Mr. Nate Streeter. Nate manages marketing for over 18 of the brands that Aleph is invested in, and we're stoked to chat about some marketing and just jam out for a little bit. So what's up, Nate? Stoked to have you here.
Hey, I'm so excited to talk to you.
So you've known Jason Paris since 2013, since before he was the chairman of the PCA, before he had Paris Paintings, before he did all this stuff. So how did you guys kind of get involved with each other to begin with?
Yeah, my history here is pretty simple. Like I started a flyer delivery company in 2001, just like a lot of kids who grew up in the inner city. Like I just kept doing what I was doing after high school. So I was doing newspapers and flyers and stuff. And I just built a little business out of that. And then fast forward, a decade or so, my business was doing really well. And I met Jason Paris and he wanted to do some flyers with the company that I own. And so I think he did like $160,000 that first year. So he was a pretty small little painting company at, the first couple of years I worked with him. And so I helped him. Just like many people did over those coming years. Like I think I was his marketing, basically. He didn't really do anything else other than flyers in those early years when they grew up to like $4 million, basically.
Flyers and door to door.
He did a little bit of that, like hustle stuff in the first year or two, but that's it. Like after that, he didn't really door knock, So in 2019, I put my business up for sale. I was like, I know it's just silly for those of you that have heard this story before. It's like Leah and I paid off our house and we were like, it was like a mic drop moment. We didn't have any debt, we were doing great. So I was like, well, I don't have to do this the rest of my life. I don't want to. So I put my business up for sale, and through a process, basically Aleph approached me and said, hey, we're interested in your business, but we're also really interested in potentially you joining our team. And, they kind of let me in on, hey, they even back in 2019, they had sort of a plan for what we're doing now. If you can imagine, they're like, hey, we're going to build up this brand in Minneapolis, but then we're planning to acquire other painting companies around the country and build a holdings company. Would you be interested in joining our team to do that? And so, I didn't really have anything else that I was excited about doing. I just knew I didn't want to do what I had been doing. So I sold Paperboy to Aleph, and the first 6 months working was like, I just worked out of the day-to-day there. So we hired a manager and did all that. The first few years working at Aleph here, or really at Paris, like I just, I worked with Paris, and that's what I did. I helped them grow up from, they basically just did flyers when I started. And we built like a real marketing program for them, and, with a whole variety of different things.
Yeah.
So I helped them go up, from 4 million to 10 million. And then we had another company here. I don't know how much you know about us, but we had at the time when I started, they were like a $600,000 remodeling company. And we grew that up to 10 million and sold it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also did that for a couple of years in that same time frame. Well, then we really started getting serious about adding partners. Really, I think, what was it, about 2023? Mm-hmm. So that's when I started, if you met Caleb, like I started training him to replace me. So he runs all the marketing at Paris now. And then the last 2 years, I've been running the marketing fractionally for all of our partners.
Yeah.
So I have a team of 8 people. That's what we do. We run the marketing for the partners.
How
And
many states are you guys in?
oh, good question. What is it, like 14 or 15 states? I mean, like we just have a couple states where we have 2 locations.
Oh, gotcha. So pretty diversified.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked just for a minute before we kind of decided to hit go here, but you said was February and March, was it a pretty tough go for you guys, or were things pretty slow? I've heard a little bit of that, but what were you feeling across the country?
It's so hard because with so many different companies we work with, like I'm at 97% of my lead goals year to date right now. Like if you did a cumulative. So like if you looked at that, you'd be like, holy shit, Nate, like you guys are really doing it. Can we cuss on this? I'm sorry, Mike.
You can do whatever you want.
Okay. So
You know,
like,
kids listening to
especially
this.
because, of course, all of our partners have like, some of them have 100% growth plans. Some of them have 50%. Like, we're trying to grow fast, right? That's what
What
we do here.
percentage of your partners' leads are you responsible for versus are they responsible for?
We don't really think about it like that. So like, since we own 40% of their company, like we win if they win.
Yeah.
So it's not like we think about it like that. Like my team is 100% responsible. So maybe a different way to ask the question is like, what percentage is repeat and referral and sales team generated? Well, that depends on the partner.
I guess I was thinking more like it's because it's not like a franchise style. You guys have the ownership, right? Whereas a franchisor will always tell the franchisee that they're still responsible for getting their own leads, right? The
Yeah, we don't
franchisor will
have
do a
that
little bit.
attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my team runs Google ads for them. My team runs Facebook ads for them. My team helps them with their flyer delivery teams in the field. I just got off a call with the door knockers,
Yeah.
So like we're highly integrated to every part of their marketing.
That's pretty cool.
So my team is. So it's not like they're responsible for something. If anything, we have more of the responsibility than they do to make sure that the appointments are coming in each day.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty
So
cool.
yeah, so we don't work anything like a franchise.
No.
Like they don't have to work with my team either if they don't want to. So I'm a fractional service that's optional. So it's not like a franchise that way either.
Gotcha. No, that's pretty interesting. And so what
Yeah.
are you finding is like what is working right now? I'm sure you guys are very data enabled. So what seems to be bringing in like the lowest cost per lead, highest or lowest cost per estimate across the board?
Yeah,
Anything
it's a
that you're
complicated.
seeing?
I mean, like everything can work really great. I think that's the quick answer, right? Like what you want me to say is like, oh, Facebook leads are where it's at, or Google's where it's at, or door knocking, that's the way. It's like, well, everything can work. Everything is working for our partners. Some things aren't working for our partners, but it's not because of the tool.
Mhm.
Like, I think often we want to blame the tool or we want to blame the vendor, but it usually doesn't have anything to do with the tool or the vendor. It's usually more to do with the brand and the communication and the content.
So I
So
guess it's more about having like a multifaceted marketing approach that is consistent over time rather than just trying to do like I did flyers and flyers got me a good ROI this one time.
yeah, I mean, and flyers can absolutely work. We do tons of flyers, right? Like they can fail too if you don't do them correctly. Right. So, I mean, I could tell you how to fail at all of the different things if you want me to do that. Like flyers, it's like if you just, you guys talk about spraying and praying, right? That's a term. It's the same thing with flyers. Like if you just go into a million different areas. The other thing is if you aim for everything, so your flyer has like 28 different services on it, it doesn't have high clarity. You don't have good pictures on your flyer that really represent what the finished product or the happy person looks like after you've painted their house. Like those are all things where I guarantee it won't work. You focus a lot on discounting and stuff. We have just not found that attracts the right kind of customer for us. So those are all things I could tell you don't work.
Yeah.
It's
And you
so
want like
yeah,
one message, one offer, ideally like one service, very clear, time delineated,
yep.
specific call to action. Nice
Same thing with
picture.
Facebook ads. I mean, it's a different format, but actually it's exactly the same.
Well, marketing is marketing, and that's what when we were
Right.
emailing back and forth and nerding out on marketing, right? It all comes down. I even made this comparison to like going door to door. It's the same. You're trying to like maximize the eyeballs on your impressions, and you're optimizing for a few things: open rate, read rate, conversion rate, And on door to door, it's like, how many doors do you get opened? How many conversations do you have? How many of those conversations do you convert? It's the exact same as Facebook. How many eyeballs see your ad? How many people click on the ad? And then how many people convert from the ad? Like the conversion numbers are still the same. It's just a different media that you're using.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also why, like, if someone asked me, do you recommend door knocking? Well, maybe, like, depending on a lot of variables for your company. Do you do more exteriors or interiors? Are you in a big market or a small market? Like, are you a $500,000 company, $5 million? Like, there's a lot of variables in how I would answer that question. Just because, like, for instance, more people answer the door in small markets. So it's totally different door knocking in small markets. That's what I found. And I think some markets are really like, they don't like door knocking. Like, they're very against door knocking. So what that'll do is you'll go knock and only 10% of the people ever answer the door. Well, kind of to your point, like, immediately you're not going to win the same as someone in a small market, where we have small markets where 40% of the people answer the door. It's totally different. You have 4 times as many chances when you go knock the same 100 doors.
Yep. If
right?
1 in 10 people are answering and you're converting 1 out of 10 conversations, like, it's
You get
100
1 in
much.
100.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a tough day in the office.
Yeah, so I think, and those are numbers that are changing. So if you talk to, like, the guys here at Olive, a lot of these guys are the college pro. They've come from that world, and they still have it in their brain of how things were like 15, 20 years ago in college, where it was like, it wasn't anything like that. Like, people in the United States overall are not as happy about door knocking.
Yeah.
Maybe they were never happy about it, but they're less happy about it, I would say, now overall. So, but same thing, if you're doing a lot of exteriors, like, I think door knocking is better for exteriors. That's my personal opinion. It's just because it's easier to sell maintenance. Like, you probably heard me talk about it maybe before, like the difference between wants and needs-based painting. And somebody who needs painting, their whole buying cycle and stuff's completely different than someone who wants painting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll push back a little bit. Like, we have hundreds of clients doing door to door right now across the country, and it's just, I guess, the timeline of what you're trying to get out of it, right? If you can collect leads and nurture them through email, right? You can generate interior work and really high end work through door to door.
Oh
They
yeah,
might not be making
absolutely.
the decision right there.
Well, I agree. Like, you could get any kind of job door to door. You could get any kind of job flyers, but my preference, if you're selling to a lot of people who want painting, and that's really the kind of business you're building, my preference would be social media. And it's only because desire matters in the equation, and you want to create desire. And I feel like that's a better platform to do that. It's not that you can't create desire door to door. You can, email sequences, all kinds of things you can create desire. But my preference, if you gave me all the tools on the table, I would prefer to use Facebook ads for that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's
Facebook
just
ads
so
still work really
easy.
well.
Yeah,
There's just so many bad agencies out there that, you guys are benefit of being able to do it in house, but there's so many just like agencies going around and ripping people off, running one ad, the same ad for everyone and hoping that it works, and people complaining, that they're locked into this big long contract, paying $2,000 a month on top of their ad spend that they can't afford.
It's really hard. I have a rule of thumb when people come and ask me questions about that. It's like, you should not be spending more than like 20 or 30% of your total ad spend on, like, the company that manages it. If you're spending 2,000, like, I meet people every month where they have $3,000 that they spend on Facebook, and like 2,000 of it is to the agency.
Yeah,
That
I know
makes
one
no
agency that does that
sense.
in the painting space that's very prominent, and he charges 2,000 for management, or maybe even 2,500, and then $1,000 minimum ad spend. You're like, what are you doing? That's like not
I
a good
usually tell
way.
people I wouldn't even do Facebook ads, and usually I would like to only start Facebook ads if you had $3,000 or more a budget just for Facebook ads.
For the
So
ads, for the
yeah, I can explain it to you perfectly. It's like, well, you need to have $20 a day to really test anything. So that's $600 a month. And we need to have at least 5 ads running all the time on Facebook. So you can do the math. It's like, well, that's $3,000 right there. And if you
if you're
go,
putting the $20 per ad set, and
yeah,
dedicating it that way versus using like an Advantage Plus or like multiple ads under one ad set, but then it's splitting the budget. But
you
again,
could, but
size of the market matters too. right? Because
A
if you have a
bit.
smaller city with like 100,000 people, like you can't put that much budget.
It could be, yeah. There could be all kinds of variables, but even in
Yeah,
the small markets, yes, it's cheaper per appointment. Like we see that, but and so there might be variations to this, but overall, I would say, yeah, I want to have 5 ads running, at least.
yep,
Most people who have healthy Facebook is 8, 10, 12. You guys could go look. Allison's got 60 or something. There's a lot of variations of similar ones. So, that's a little bit with an asterisk too.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I typically don't recommend people do Facebook ads until they're at least doing 30, 40,000 a month in sales. Before that, you should be doing the free and the cheap stuff, the strategic
Yeah.
partners, the door-to-door, the job site marketing, the lawn signs, until you have consistent revenue and profit coming in. Because Facebook, it is like it can work, like you said, it can work, but it's not guaranteed by any means. You might take $3,000 to $5,000 of testing before you start generating an ROI. And if you can't afford that, then you shouldn't try it.
If you're a $300,000 or $400,000 painting company and you're thinking about how much to spend on marketing or what to do, I think my questions are, well, how long have you been in business? Is it only like a year or 2 or 3? That might be slightly different scenario, right? And then what's your trajectory? Like, are you trying to get to 2 million? Are you trying to get to 1 million? What are you trying to get to? Because if you've been in business for 10 years, you're at $350,000 and you're feeling like you have to spend money on marketing, like that makes me think there's other issues with your business. Like you need to figure out what it is why you aren't getting as much repeat referral business and why it is that you aren't getting as many of those referrals. Like you're probably not doing yard signs well. You're probably not talking to the neighborhoods. You're probably not making a big, huge positive impression on each customer.
Or
Like
doing things like email or social media posts, things like that.
potentially, I mean, I think, figure out what works for you, but it feels to me like what's going to happen to you is if you do want to grow fast and get up to a couple $1,000,000, those problems just multiply and magnify. Do you see what I'm saying? So if I were you, I'd spend time looking at that. And so, but my world is mostly, I mean, our average company in our portfolio is like more like $2 or $3 million. So it's a little
Yeah.
different size business, I think, than that. So I'm not as used to that world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. And once you're doing that, like, yeah, 7-figure plus, I think it makes sense to add in all of those things, especially Google Ads. I mean, what are you finding with Google Ads in the last, 6 to 12 months with ChatGPT taking so much of this? Because like personally, I use Google maybe 20% of the amount that I used to use Google. Everything goes straight to chat now.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you can see, you don't have to take my word for it. I mean, there's a lot of numbers that show it's a very small percentage of people. You're not the average user, Mike. So, but is it changing and will it change? Yes. We're not seeing that. Like
You
almost
haven't
every
seen it yet?
partner I have, like we're up year over year pretty big, like as far as like volume of website visits, things like that. Like, yeah, we're way up, but we're doing all kinds of things to make sure that happens. Right. Um, I think on the paid side of things, like, well, local service ads are great. The problem is that every market that they were really great in a year ago, more painters are using them. And so then we get a smaller piece of the pie. Do you
Hmm.
see what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's probably the thing that's hard about local service ads is it's the same as search now, like where you're paying for search is like, there's just so little available that it's not really something that you can use to scale very big
It's like
unless
an
you're
ancillary type thing where maybe you get a few leads a month.
yeah, maybe 10, depending on the market, we're getting different amounts, but I would say that's gone down, not because we're doing anything wrong, but just because there's more painters using it.
Yep.
And I think that's true for search too. There's more professional painters using, paying Google for search.
Okay, I got a
Um,
question for you then.
yeah,
Black or white question, always. Door hangers or EDM?
we do both. Yeah, we love both of those.
Do
Yeah,
you
I
do you
know.
notice do I track specific ROI on either?
Yeah, everything. We track
Yeah.
everything like down to every possible way we can. We track every single
Okay,
flyer person. We track
sure.
every neighborhood. Yeah. So, um, I think they're different. I know people think they're very similar, but actually for a consumer, they're different. Um, somebody hangs a flyer on your door, it feels like they're painting your neighbor's house on the block. And that
Versus if
is,
you get one laminated postcard in a stack of postcards when you get your mail.
it doesn't feel quite like that. Right. So that's part of the difference. But you can target a lot more with mail. We do that a lot. So we do EDDM, but I would say we do lots of targeting too, and targeted mail. Um, I think the problem with flyers is like they're very difficult. If like for companies that are actually like sending out, they have 4 flyer people that are out working every week kind of thing, that you find out how difficult that is to run a program like that. And it also can't scale. Like in the spring, sometimes we want to do 5 times as many, you know, print ads in 1 week. You just can't do that with flyers. And so direct mail is something that there's like
It's an easy
unlimited
button.
scalability to, right? So I think those are things where we look at it and we want to do it. Most people make mistakes. You probably heard me talk about it before. I don't think they really realize how these tools work. We only get like 40 or 50% of the response in the first like 3, 4, 5 weeks. So people don't understand the tail of direct mail or flyers, and that's where I hear a lot of criticism is they don't really understand how the tools even work. And the best tool for these, whether it's a flyer or a mailer, is you want to create something that's like surprisingly helpful to someone who's going to paint. Like that would be your ideal. And or it's like obviously for them, right? They have a stucco house and you sent them a postcard about stucco painting. It's like if they're thinking about painting, they're keeping that dang thing because it was helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think like thinking about both of those tools in that way, where it's like, how do I make this more keepable, more valuable, more local and present so it
Yeah.
seems like it's for them? When we've done that, our ROI numbers explode. And so both of those tools can be good for that. But flyers definitely more difficult, to run a flyer program. And
Yeah.
Paris is really lucky, in my opinion, because Paperboy, I know this is a company I used to own. We used to own it. We sold it now too. Paris doesn't own it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
It's
which
getting
is
hot
great. It's just
potatoed.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's fine. It's been growing through all these years. So that's still good. Right. But they're really lucky to have a vendor like that. There aren't very many vendors we've been able to find around the country. So we mostly have just had to build our own flyer teams. The painting company basically runs them.
Okay, cool. I mean, that makes sense. I guess that kind of brings me to the next that next question is seasonality and offers per season, right? So you work with states, you work with winter states and non-winter states, right? Do you notice seasonality in different types of campaigns and offers working different times a year? If so, like what would you recommend people test out like this time of year right now, kind of going into April?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of obvious, right? Like we don't really focus on very many offers because again, offers tend to attract people who are looking for discounts. And so it's more about solving a problem. So they're going out and looking at their house for the first time. They're just, depending on where you're at in the country, some people are really, it's spring is here. There's some parts of the country, spring's not here quite yet even, but they are starting to realize they need maintenance on their house and you want to be there at the right time, for that maintenance need. I don't think there's as much seasonality for people who want painting. So we can get leads every week of the year pretty much. It's still true. I would prefer not to market between Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. Things don't tend to be, they tend to be much more expensive. Like we can buy leads during that time, but it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. My experience is everything's more expensive between Thanksgiving and Valentine's
3
Day.
whole months.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I would prefer not to market during that time. Now we have to because we got sales teams but we
I know
usually
like
try to slow
Facebook
things
gets a lot more
down.
expensive with Black Friday and then Christmas.
Yes.
Those get
Hmm.
quite expensive. Your CPMs will go up and cost per lead and all that, especially with the election. That makes things really
Yep.
expensive. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
what
same
do you
thing
guys do?
happens
Do
in
you guys shut
January.
it down or do you just
Yeah.
keep going? Okay.
Well, we build a plan. So we build a plan that has goals for every single week, all 52 weeks of the year for every single campaign. So when we look at our goals for like December, they're very low because we're going to try to spend as little as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So if we need 1,000 leads throughout the year, we're just going to plan for very few in December.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So right now going in the summer, are you guys mostly positioned around exterior specific niche campaigns?
It depends on the partner, but like, yes, there's a big chunk of ours that they do a lot of exterior in quarter 2 and 3, right? So we're doing a lot of exterior, but
Yeah.
some of our partners do 50-50. So we're still running tons of interior ads all the way through quarter 2 and 3. And
Yeah.
then there's a whole chunk of our partners that do a lot of commercial too. So my team's actually, we know how to do commercial marketing now. We've learned a lot over the last 18 months. So we've gotten a lot better at how to figure out how to get leads in that world.
In commercial new or commercial repaint?
Commercial repaint, that's almost
Okay.
exclusively. There isn't
Yeah.
for our partners, they haven't found a whole lot of margin in commercial new.
Yeah. And you need a special type of business to be able to do that. So what are you finding is working on the commercial repaint side to get leads? Is this through property managers and realtors, or what's your kind of strategy there?
Yeah, I mean, just the same as if you've heard the Kuipers talk about this or anybody else, like we don't have anything new that we're doing. We just execute, man. Like I think everybody thinks there's some secret to everything. The secret is execution. Like,
It's just doing
yeah,
it over and over for a long period of
yeah,
time.
like
You'll
you
watch
need
it
to
remember.
send out, like some cases, thousands of emails a month. And we have people that are out there, taking pictures of properties. So we have people in a whole bunch of our markets where we are out hustling, and we go get 30 properties a week where we can tell they need painting. And then we contact the property manager or the owner, and we do that. We do cold emails. We do cold everything. Like you just
Yep.
have to hustle every week. And then the goal is to start to build a relationship. So all you're really doing from a marketing standpoint is get the opportunity for your sales rep to talk to them, and then they go
Yeah.
from there. So we try to get a handful of those per sales rep per month. And then what you come out with at the end of the year is hundreds of thousands, or in some cases millions of dollars, because that adds up. If you can
Yeah.
build even 50 relationships a year, it's a pretty
That's what I
extraordinary
tell my
thing.
guys is like 1 a week is all you need. 1 meeting
Yeah.
a week, that'll change your life. So what I really like, and so just like for clarity, so you have 18 businesses at about $3 million each or so,
Yeah. I
about
think
54 million plus your
yep,
12
that sounds
million
right. Yeah.
plus
We're right in that.
plus 12 at Paris, so like 65 million.
Yeah.
Including
15. Yeah. I
Paris.
think we literally are right around 65 yep. So your math's perfect.
There we go. I knew it.
Yep. Yep.
So, this reminds me of a concept that Alex Hormozy talked about when I was at his headquarters a few months ago. Is that when he went and did a YouTube session with Mr. Beast and some other of the biggest YouTube guys, and they were talking about like when they create an idea for a video. Hormozy was telling Mr. Beast about a video he's got. He's like, okay, where's your brief? He's like, what do you mean my brief? He's like, no, I have like an idea of what I want the video. Mr. Beast goes, oh, when we create a concept for a video, we write a 35-page brief that explains everything about the video, what it's going to be, how it's going to go, what the marketing plan is going to be, etc. He's like, oh, I'm just not doing enough work. Like there's no
Right.
secret to it. It's just I'm not doing enough. So when it comes to a business like yours, where you're bringing in $60 million of mostly residential sales, there's no secret. It's just do more. Do a whole
Yeah. I
bunch of
think
stuff and do
so.
a lot of it.
I think there's also in the painting world. I remember talking with Nick Slavik on his show a couple months about this. Painters have like this animosity, like almost this resentment towards marketing. And I think it's because they're insecure about their trade. I'm just being honest with you, Mike. Like, I think they're insecure about their trade. And so then, like, this idea, like, I have to pay to get people to work with me, like, that's really hard. It feels like for painters. And so you have to have a healthy, realistic idea of what marketing is. And I think the painters that you see that are building multi-million dollar painting businesses, that's what they're doing is they realize like, yeah, man, I got to spend like 5 to 10% of my gross budget on marketing. And like, that's painful, but I'm going to build a system where that works. And what I see with small painters is they rarely have that idea and they're really not coming at it in a healthy way. And it's often because they don't have the right margins and stuff. There's other issues in the equation, right? But
Well, actually, so one thing that's true for me is that if I'm investing in something, if I don't understand it, I'm not going to want to do it. And I think most people, when it comes to investing in marketing their whole life, and most data in general is a kind of a black box. Goes in, I don't know what comes out, right? So it's like, why would I spend $1,000 per month on blank or 5% or 10% of my revenue when I could just save that money? right?
Yeah.
They're not looking, they don't have a way to, in a term I used earlier, is to be data enabled, to see how much they're spending, what their cost per lead is, what's their cost per estimate, what's their cost per booking, their ROI, their return on gross profit. Like all of these metrics aren't just important to know, but they're mandatory if you want to be profitable and be confident in spending on marketing. Like as I was building Painter Growth, when I first started running Facebook ads, I was doing like $10 a day. And then I got to $100 a day. And then I was like, talk to my wife. I'm like, I'm spending $100 a day. She's like, what? You're spending how much? And then I got to $200 a day and then $500 a day. Now we're spending $1,900, $2,000 a day on Facebook ads. And my wife doesn't ask me about it anymore.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter, because we're so data enabled. We have dashboards, we have numbers, everything is so granular, right? But if you don't have data, like I would be terrified to spend $2,000 a day on ads. Are you kidding me? Never happened.
I mean, that's sort of a little, it's not a secret. I think everybody knows this about Aleph, but my team, we spend an extreme amount of our energy making sure our data is accurate. Like we're doing match back work for all kinds of our campaigns to figure out like exactly what ads are producing actual revenue for us, right? And we have everything built in, of course, into our ERP, but like into Wallogy, so it's sort of a blessing, a curse. Like every partner can go look right now. I mean, we could, if you wanted to, Mike, I could show you exactly where Paris is at right now, year to date for marketing, right? Like we could see exactly how much we spent on direct mail and how much we spent on Facebook and what the ROI was and, how many appointments and then how many leads and how many of those turned into appointments. And like how
And you
much
guys
the average job
do this
size.
through your ERP?
Yeah.
That's really cool. And it's an in-house one, right? Your in-house brand.
Yep.
That's super cool.
Yeah. So I think for us, and then we look at it, we build all the marketing plans right in there too. So like they can see exactly how many leads each week based on the plan we had. So I think, yeah, being able to track everything is just such a game changer because we make marketing decisions based on data. We are we are data driven marketers. Like we don't think like, oh, that looks good or that feels good. Like we're building a brand, whatever that means. It's like, no, how many appointments did it bring in? That's like, and then how many dollars did those appointments bring in? What's the literal ROI?
And that's the beauty with residential repaints, is that the sales cycle is so short. Cash flow cycle is a little bit longer, but like sales cycle is so short that you can see what you booked within, 2 weeks of putting out a campaign.
If you do a lot of Facebook or a lot of door knocking, especially in those areas, if your campaigns are trying to bring in warm leads, then that could look longer because you've got more nurturing that's happening. But otherwise, yeah, like it's a very short distance to, and I suppose like very few painters right now are booked out for months and months, at least bigger painters. We haven't found consumers prefer that. So like we always at Paris, it's like, if we're booked out more than 3 weeks, like
Hire.
something's wrong. Yeah. Like we need to either have more sales. Yeah. Something's wrong. So yeah, I would say the same thing about repeat referral business. Whenever people come into my office and they show me that they've got 60% of their leads coming in from repeat referral, they're not growing fast enough. Like that's my first reaction to that is like, what you buy when you pay for marketing is control. Like if you need to start controlling your business now, probably under $1 million, maybe you're probably often not thinking like that. The only time you spend money on marketing is to buy leads. But the bigger your business you get, the more what you're really buying is control. Marketing is that first cog and you need to be able to turn it up, down. You need to be able to control it from week to week. And that's what you're spending money on, is the control. And so you look at it differently and you want to be able to track everything very carefully then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the control is important for sure. I think that most painting contractors, they grow initially, like if they come from painting, right? A lot of people, like many, not a lot, but several painters come from the business side, and they get into painting from a business perspective, and that becomes a lot easier for them to scale and look at the numbers. But most painting business owners come in through painting. And so they build their business to their highest level of comfort, which is typically word of mouth, referrals, and talking to the general manager of the paint store.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that might be just them, depending on their area and their quality and stuff. It might be just them, or it might be them plus a couple helpers, or maybe at max like 2 crews. Maybe they'll get to like 5, 6, 700,000 a year, based on inbound. But then the shift of mindset and comfort and financial outlay and how you look at money and how you use money and so many other habits to be able to scale and put money out, that's such a foreign concept to most people who are, born and bred contractors who are now trying to become marketing investors, right?
Yeah.
It's a big shift. It's a whole shift in mindset.
Well, I think when they make the next shift, what I'm saying is when you get, I agree completely. I think that shift for a lot of companies come between 500,000 and $1 million. But I think the next shift happens when you're into that 2-3 million, where you have people that work for you. You've got sales staff and project managers and office. You don't just buy leads anymore. Like you have a whole system that needs to keep moving. Right. And so if you're doing all the estimates yourself, which is generally the case for any business under $1 million, if lead flow goes down one week, it's not that big a deal. You just push into production a little more, or you catch up on your bookkeeping, or I know you guys do all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
But if you have 3 salespeople who work for you and leads go down and they're just twiddling their thumbs half the week, you're losing money and you're not giving them a chance to win. They can't make their goals. And so
they're going to be unhappy. They might quit.
Yeah. So there's a whole different thing. And so having control of your marketing all of a sudden becomes a lot more important. And you're actually spending more because of that. Like we literally make marketing decisions because we want more control, not just because it's the cheapest lead. So that's, I think, a big difference as you're growing your business is just the way you come about that. But you're right. Like if you're at $600,000 and you're just starting to dip your toes into marketing and you probably did some LSA or you met a marketing vendor at PCA and you think he's going to completely change your whole business. It's so funny you mentioned that because I don't think most of the marketing vendors are like bad. I guess I wanted to say that. Like, I think what I've noticed is it has very little to do with the marketing vendor if people succeed. Like what I've noticed is people who are a little more business oriented, who kind of know how to grow their business and are willing to do the work of the marketing, they're going to win regardless of which marketing company they hire. Which the reverse is true too. Like the companies that they've always been a painter, they just want to like throw $2,000 a month at the marketing company and say, fix this for me. It's like 9 out of 10 times that doesn't work. And it's not the marketing company's fault.
I mean, you can't, like, that's like putting a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound, right? Like there's going to be some other issues there with that business. And I found that it's a different dynamic than, I mean, actually it's the same dynamic as your business, because what I find is the best way from a person to work, a company to work with a marketing agency is to not like have a hire marketing agency and then sit back with your arms crossed and wait for the leads. But it's to hire a marketing agency and treat them as if they're an employee. They're an extension of your business now. And
that's nice.
It's your responsibility to empower them to be successful, right?
Yep.
So how much feedback are you giving them on the leads? How much are you talking to them? How much new content are you giving them? Are you like, what is that communication cadence between you and your agency? The same as an employee. If you bring on a new employee, are you just going to throw them to the wolves and hope that they are successful in your business? Right. Like, no, you're going to work with them. You want them. We're both vested in each other, right? Yes, they can do with skill. And even if they have a guarantee, like help them be successful by being overly communicative with them and helping them out.
What percentage, I know you work with hundreds and hundreds of painters, or maybe thousands. I don't know how big your business is.
Almost 1,000.
Okay. Oh, that's so great, man. I'm like, that's so awesome. How many of them do you think are halfway decent at like creating content each month, like from a percentage standpoint?
Maybe from an absolute number, maybe like 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe like, but not a lot of them can create regular content that is good. A few of our guys, like, we have one guy who's in our program who has just been absolutely crushing it lately with content. Casey, he's not a tech guy, not social media, was his strong suit, but he just like jumped into it, started making some really cool reels, and is getting some really cool reception from that. We have a few other people too, just blanking right now, but yeah, a few people who are making some pretty cool, like consistent stuff, but it doesn't have to be flashy. It just has to be consistent.
Yeah, I think because it's the only thing that if you ask me, like, Nate, when you guys are at 4 million or whatever, it could be a million, it could be 500,000. Like, what are the regrets? Like, what do you wish you would have done? It's like, well, that's what I wish I would have focused on more, is getting more content, because you can't go back in time and get content from projects that you like. A lot of the content you need to get is about like what happens during the process and what it looked like before and how it made the homeowner feel and how you felt. Like, were you proud? And like, all of these things happen in the moment, and
Yeah.
collecting that is like a lot of work. But if you can do it, it saves you so much money on marketing.
So what, Zach Kenny,
Yeah, of course.
his big shtick when it comes to house painting contractors or creating content is like, yes, before and afters are fun. If you want to do some like nice ASMR before and after, screen casts or whatever, like the time lapse ones, like do that. That's fine. But the main thing is like, how do you convert people from viewing your Instagram profile to leads? And what
Mhm.
people want to know when they visit your Instagram, when Mary from down the street from one of your projects types in your painting company and goes into your Instagram profile, she wants to know, what is it going to feel like when I call your company? Who am
Hmm.
I going to deal with? What's the process? Who am I going to talk to? What do your painters look like? What does a job site look like? And just like document that and have a little
Yeah.
of those shortcut buttons on your Instagram profile where it's like, hey, here's Nate. He's my top painter. Nate, why don't you tell the viewers a bit about yourself? And you're on a clean job site with the drop cloths and the ladders and everything like all laid out. It's like, hey, well, this is a job site. Here's what we're doing. This is the project that we're on. Here's Mary over there. We're doing her.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, everyone! Say hi to Mary.
We talk a lot about the who. So like, I think a lot of painters, they want to focus on the how, and that's okay. If
And
you
the
have
what.
that, that's okay. Yeah. The what, yeah. But like the who is what people really want. Like, who's coming to my house? Who do you work with? Like who owns the company? Who, like, all these who questions are really, if you can answer those with pictures and videos, they're going to be way more powerful. So that's one of the rules we have here, is please don't take very many pictures without people in them. So it's like 5% is good to take that after picture of the house than it is to take that after picture with a homeowner in front of it or with your crew in front of it. It's
Or a
like,
10-second interview with the homeowner. Hey, what was your
yeah,
experience?
yeah. And again, what are you trying to grab from that homeowner? Like, how they feel. So like, that is like more about like, because that moves the needle. So yeah, and for those of you that are professional painters, like, competency does matter, because it is a way that we can differentiate ourselves between the stand in a van and chuck in a truck, is competency, or handyman painters, sometimes people call them. Um, but there's lots of ways you can show that.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, ZK is really good at that too. Um,
Yeah,
so
he's a
of course he
content
has a
creator through and
product,
through.
that's very high level. So it's easy, sort of like, not easy, but I mean, that does make it a little bit different. Like, there's more distance between maybe a handyman and DIY,
For
right?
sure, for
All right.
sure. I
So
mean, but regardless, it's the whole process. He's consulted a lot of people on their social media too, and it works, right? That's what homeowners want. And his big thing isn't necessarily about chasing that views, but it's about chasing revenue, right? Chasing revenue through your social media. And I mean, that's what everyone, but the average painter shouldn't be trying to go viral, right? They should
we
be
don't
trying.
track. I mean, you might be surprised, but there's no campaigns where we track views
No.
or clicks. Like, we only track, based, like, I suppose we do dig into that a little bit if there's an issue, but cursory, my team spends no time looking at that. We look at conversions. That's it. So we're not really paying much attention to, yeah, because those are just like false numbers that don't mean much.
Yep. No,
Oh,
it's not a.
usually your digital agencies will focus on those things because they want to look good,
Yeah.
right? But who cares really at the end of the day? So going viral doesn't help you either. I have 4 partners that have like amazing SEO that does almost nothing for us. They have all these articles on their website that tons of people come to from all over the country every day and read about how to stain their deck or how to do whatever. It doesn't lead to appointments. Like I don't know. I guess I challenge if other painters are tracking something I don't see, but I'm a big believer in local SEO. I'm not saying SEO is not worthwhile, but that kind of SEO, I don't see it having an impact on.
I mean, the best kind of SEO, at least right now, is still just your Google reviews.
Yep.
And your Google My Business, right?
Yeah. Keep on top of your Google My Business. Yep. We do that. We try to post multiple times a week on our Google My Business. And most of our partners have 100+ reviews, some of them hundreds and hundreds of reviews. Like we try to focus a lot on that.
Makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And make sure you get people to actually talk about their project in their review. If they just give you 5 stars or just say it went great, and even better, the best signal you can possibly do is if they attach pictures to the Google review. That really makes Google's algorithms go crazy. Like our partners who do that, everything gets better. I mean, we can see a through line to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sometimes will give bonuses to people on our team if they have, if video or pictures get posted with the reviews. So what are you finding that's working, Mike? Like when you talk to your customers, like what are they doing in marketing that's having a big impact?
The top clients are getting results from everything, right? The best businesses, they'll get results from everything, and it's the combo. We really preach, like when they're small, when they're just starting out, layer your marketing in a specific area with a specific niche, and layer things: flyers, door hangers, door to door, plus strategic partners, right? That's like your core 4.
Yep.
And then as you grow, then you want to layer on Facebook ads, GLSAs, and EDDM campaigns, email marketing, go hard on Google reviews. I mean, when it comes to marketing, there's like, I think a lot of painters are looking for like the magic bullet, right? Yeah. But there is no magic bullet. It's about doing the 5 or 6 things that we know work, but doing them in a nuanced way and doing them well and doing them consistently. If you can't do them consistently, you might as well not do them at all.
I think that's why, as you're even saying that, I'm going to say something I've never said before, and it might be controversial. I don't know if you're an under $1 million painting company. I'm not sure I'd recommend direct mail. Like, I think it requires a long-term commitment, and it requires you to have a lot of tracking mechanisms where you'll be able to track your neighborhoods really closely. It requires you to build quite a number of good content pieces that are going to keep adding value into neighborhoods. It feels to me like that's going to be probably very challenging for a small painting company to do all those things well.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying this, what I realize is how many people have come up to me over the last years and told me direct mail doesn't work. And usually they're smaller companies.
Yeah.
And it might be,
for direct mail though is a very niche strategy. So like if what I'll do is find a neighborhood that has just stucco homes, right? And then do a stucco specific flyer with a stucco specific offer and run that 2 or 3 times in the spring, right? Or another one that I did was a farm/barns around my city. So there's like 600 farms or something. And so I ran this barn flyer like 3 times with a before and after of a barn, and that cleaned up.
Yeah.
Right? So like in terms of like general interior, exterior, like I wouldn't do that. I would just be like, pick a niche, find a neighborhood with a lot of those types of homes, and hit that specific neighborhood a few times.
Yeah. Well, I love everything you just said. Like that's exactly how I would recommend. I mean, at Paris, we did 60 to 70 different postcards last year. So people don't realize like how much we're doing exactly like what you're mentioning, where it's like, but that's a lot of work to do everything you just mentioned, to get those barn pictures and to get that stucco, to figure all that out. I feel like the average painter is going to have, because that requires a lot of planning. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is like, well, you have to work on that.
If I only did like 4 campaigns a year, right? Say in the spring I did barns, in the summer I did stucco homes, in the fall I did interior or something like that, and then at Christmas time, whatever. Say I did these 4 and I only need 4 flyers, and you can plan out like a triple drop, like pretty, not too difficult to do that. I think you can be smart about it and limit your logistics.
I love that. And a company like yours probably could help them organize that a bit.
With the templates and stuff and the workflows. Yeah.
I think that just to be practical, you might ask like, well, practically, Nate, what's the difference? Like, what if I don't do that work? I just send out something generic. It's like, Well, I'll just tell you, because I can see it. My partners have done it. It's the difference between spending $200 on a direct mail appointment and 800. Like, it's an extraordinary difference. And if you do the work, you're gonna save a lot of money. And if you don't do the work, you're probably gonna come away and say that wasn't worth it.
The thing I struggle with every single day in my life with my clients is the concept of going narrow instead of wide, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to put out a flyer. Someone post in the group. It's like, hey guys, what do you think of this flyer? And it's like, we do interiors, exteriors, residential, commercial, industrial, decks, fences, kitchens. Yeah. And like, I'm like, what? Yeah, like we tell them we do everything. So like, we're going to get lots of leads. It's like, no, man, that's not how it works.
My grandma used to say, if you aim for everything, you hit nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, why don't you just say kitchen cabinets? It's like, is that what you like? Yeah. Let me ask you a couple questions. What's your highest margin project? What's your crew the best at? And what can you guys just like crank out? It's like, okay, exteriors. All right, let's do some siding projects, right?
One of the hardest things with my partners is that what we learned at Paris, like we've actually reduced our geography every year for 5 years straight now. Like I think we started at 160,000 and we're under 100,000, even though we went from 4 million to like $16 million. So people don't realize we're not expanding our geography. We're actually reducing it as we're 4 times as big. So I've worked really hard with my partners because it's very difficult for them to like buy into that. Like everybody, you say that and they're all nodding their head. Like I've been in front of a crowd of painters, but then when you practically go to do it and say, we're only going to focus on these 5 zip codes, they freak out.
Yeah.
It happens every time. Like they're like, well, wait, there's good houses over here and there's good houses over here.
I think that's our first lesson is picking your area, is targeting your neighborhood.
It's really hard. I think people like, because inevitably you have to say no to something that was good, like by picking something out. You see what I'm saying? You are excluding.
By saying yes to that, you're saying no to something else.
Right.
You feeling like you're leaving money on the table, but it doesn't work like that. It's like it's better to be a big fish in a small pond.
Because we do all the analysis. Like most of our partners, like, oh, here's 160 zip codes we worked in. Here's how many jobs. Here's the success rate per zip code. Here's, what happened with the direct mail per zip code. Like we're doing a lot of analysis. Here's all the demographics. Here's all we're doing all that analysis. But at the end of the time, even with all that data, when we're just picking 5 zip codes, they're still very uncomfortable with that. Because we did business in 170 zip codes last year.
Yeah.
And so it feels like, wait, we can't just focus only on these.
But like areas. The benefits are like innumerable. Like you don't have to drive across town for every single project. Imagine if your painters could all just work in one little neighborhood by their house.
Yeah.
Imagine if like you'd save 50% on your fuel costs every single month. Imagine if you could fit 8 estimates a day instead of 5 estimates a day because you don't have to drive 30 minutes in between. Like,
there's a million things. Like when people say yard signs don't work, this is one of my first thoughts. Is like, oh, you don't understand how to dominate neighborhoods. I don't say that to them, but that is one thing I think, because I'm like, if you understand how to dominate neighborhoods, your yard signs are going to kill.
Yeah.
Like you don't have enough, if you're doing a lot of projects in a small geography, yard signs are going to kill for you. And so I think those are things where it's like, yeah, you just, you can keep on going down and down and down. It's like pretty soon you're doing 20 houses in a very small geography.
Yep.
Yeah. Like you're the painter in that neighborhood now. Right.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's exactly what we recommend is pick what neighborhood and stick with this serve. Draw a line around on a map. Do not mark it out of it. Be the biggest fish. Get a lawn sign on every single boulevard. Knock on every single door 10 times. Have everyone know your name. Like you can find $1 million in, 10 zip codes.
I think one thing that I am concerned about this coming into this season is that for the most part, my repeat referral numbers across my partners were pretty much on track for January and February. And I get it. There's still a third of the month left here in March. So it's hard to make comments about March, but we're tracking everything in real time, Mike. So I'm looking at the numbers for March, and I think almost across the board, my repeat referral numbers are going to be under goals. So that's a good litmus on my teams, the way we think about it, of like natural demand in the market.
I also think the first 2 weeks of March are going to be different than the last 2 weeks of March.
It's true, but every market's a little different that way too.
Yeah, I mean, so for a painter growth, we do feel like the national, like both as our company and as our clients. And what we kind of noticed is that last week of February to like March 12th, March 14th or so, it was pretty slow. And now it's really starting to warm up. Like we noticed a pretty big shift, both at Painter Growth and with our clients. So my guess is that the second half of March is going to make up for the slow start to the month.
Yeah.
Message me at the end of the month and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think we usually do year over year data. So we're looking at like, what does week 6 look like, this year compared to last year, from a repeat referral standpoint. Like that's how we do everything, is just week by week comparisons. But we'll see. That to us is like the canary in the coal mine of like demand, where we might have to switch more marketing dollars to buying appointments.
Yeah.
So because we're going to keep growing at the rate we're going to grow. Like if a partner's plan is to go from 3 million to 4.5 million, like that's the plan. And we'll
marketing has to be 8% versus 11%. You're going to spend what you need to spend to hit the growth goals.
Potentially. Now that might be a big swing because that's 3% right out of their margin, and they might only have a 12%. So it's like that just knocked out a quarter of your margin. So those decisions would be hard ones if we're moving that much. But sometimes, yes, like it depends on a whole bunch of scenarios.
Yeah.
Right?
It probably depends on the partner, their timeline.
Yep. Most of the time though, when you get into a partnership, now you've got multiple people who care about profitability of your company. Yeah. So profit is definitely something we care about here at all. If we're not trying to like grow for 3 years with no profit. Like that's not. Now there might be a time where we have to do that, but we don't. I know there are painters out there that are doing that. I just heard Morgan talking about that. It's like, yeah, I agree. Like there's people where if you looked at their real books, you'd see like what they're saying is not the same as what's actually happening behind the scenes. And I'm not saying they're lying, but they might be exaggerating.
Yeah, I get that. But Nate, I could talk to you and nerd out for another 5 hours on marketing, but you got other meetings. I got other meetings.
Yeah.
Friday afternoon. Fun. Yeah, man, that was awesome. I would, what I'm really interested to know, and I can't wait till this post, is to see if anyone else cares about marketing the same way that we do. We absolutely nerded out there and we got into the weeds. So if anyone made it to here, you guys are hanging on, you troopers, and you're going to be successful.
Yeah, this is a little weeds. If you ever watch any of the ones that I did with Caleb, it's like super weeds.
Yeah.
Where we're like literally pulling up Google. We're really going into the campaigns and going one by one and talking through them.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome. I mean, as far as the podcast goes, this is pretty weedy. So I enjoyed it though, man. I enjoyed it. I love talking about marketing. I am, it'd be interesting. I'm bringing on a head of marketing right now for Painter Growth. Would love to have you guys chat because he's, marketing nerd through and through as well. You guys would have a great chat.
I love that. I actually run a group each month. It's mostly for painters who spend, I think we have like a limit of you need to spend $300,000 or $400,000 or more on marketing a year. So usually that's a bigger painting business.
Yeah, it'd be like 5 million minimum probably.
Yeah, but it doesn't cost anything to join the group. And we just started a smaller group for painting companies that are maybe more like $1 million or $2 million. But it's all free and stuff. Yeah. We don't have any vendors in our group, but for painters who are doing stuff. Yeah. I think we just don't want to sell anything to each other. We're mostly just trying to talk shop.
For sure.
That makes sense.
Change the dynamic for sure.
Yeah, a little bit. So
yeah. Once I make my first acquisition, I'll hop in there.
Are you planning for that?
Yeah, that'll be coming.
I love that. See, like you have to realize that Aleph, we're so focused on like the professionalization of the industry, because it's not just because we benefit from that, but like it will benefit all professional painting companies. And it's the same with Sherwin and other vendors too. Like they want that desperately.
100%. And when you go, you don't want to bid against someone who's half your price because he doesn't know his worth, right? He doesn't know how to price. And he's going to be the chuck in a truck. You want to price against other professionals and win a clean race. Yeah. And yeah, so love what you guys are doing and would love to have you back to continue this conversation, man.
Yeah, holler at me. I'll do it.
Sounds good. And let me know if I'm right about March.
I hope you are. For all of us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Great chat with you, Nate. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.